Hello and welcome in to Off Topic with Laird. That's me, Andrew Laird, Lairdinho on Sorare, head of content here at Sorare Data. Thank you everyone for joining. Today, what is this? Episode 12, technically, I think. I decided to keep counting after I changed it from rabbit hunting to Off Topic, but the numbers are staying the same. I hope everybody can forgive me if they, how do I put this? Apologies for those who are offended by me counting that way. So thanks, everyone. Looks like we had some comments early on. H4 and Gots. Shout out to all the Sorare burger boys out there. Speaking of burgers, Mr. Meaty Chunks, hello. Rui is here. Mike Basson, happy Friday, amigos. Risu is here. Olympic manager. Kevin Hart. Thanks, everyone. Levi's finally made the live event. I always struggle with finding notifications. So if you just go to the Sorare Data... Sorry for Tuggy. Sorare Data YouTube channel. All of the upcoming videos are there, and you can just click a notification or click that you want a notification. It's that little bell. Steve, what's up? Skosmo, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Germ, hello, sir. Johannaton is here. Josh XLs, David Alves, 93 Acres. Guys, really appreciate all of the early hellos. Special shout out to all the lurkers out there too. I get it. Sometimes you just don't want to comment. You can always like the stream. In fact, we should all be doing that. So thank you for everyone for doing that. Mr. Meaty Chunk said the Stindl and Marvin going to be the dream team next season. Shh, I'm trying to get a Stindl. Rikamon is here as well. So what's up? Random talk incoming. This is absolutely true. That's what we're here for. The random talk. I take that back. I have something I wanted to talk about. And I actually had two things I wanted to talk about. And I know that like the point of this is, Skosmo, you better hold that, you. We raking up the Cap 240 uniques next season. But anyway, so the two things I wanted to talk about, one was like basically what I discussed last week, last week, in terms of selling all my limiteds and buying a Messi. And the other is about Messi. So it's kind of stuff like that. Raul, thanks for coming in. So I had some feedback on the last show. Although before I get that, we're already going off topic. Josh says, I'm going off topic early doors. Goalkeepers need their own triple stat points, diving saves, sweeper keeper, and high claim type things. Josh, I'm all in. Absolutely. Like if you get two sweeper keepers, don't they call them like good high claims or something like that? We don't need like the average high claims. We want the good ones. Yeah. And I love that idea. Absolutely love it. Anything to get my shit goalkeepers a few more points would be greatly appreciated. But anyway, so last week I talked about selling all my limiteds and buying a Lionel Messi rare. And I actually will start with the Messi thing. So it was really fun having him in a lineup that I really cared about. And that actually kind of goes into the whole limited thing because I've had a limited Messi for a while. And I always put him in what I wanted to be my best limited lineup. But like not that I never got excited, but the excitement, I had lost the excitement. And so I had the Messi in, and I had actually discussed with Connor R. He has some numbers on his name too. But he and I were DMing about Messi because he had one and I wanted to buy one. And he was like, no, I don't really want to sell my Messi, which I totally got. And he was like, it's nice having a player like Messi, as if they're like a bunch of them, where you put them in your best lineup and you captain them right away. And you're like, all right, let's go. And that's what I did. And I put him in my best lineup, which last week, at least what I thought was my best lineup, was All-Star Rare Pro. It's probably where I'll play Messi most of the time anyway. And I was like, all right, let's go. And he got an assist on the first Connor R98. What up? So that's the Connor I was just referring to. So I played Messi in my best lineup. He played on Friday. He got an assist. And I was like actually disappointed because he only scored 75. My good friend Andy Black, who also, he has two Messi rares, including a jersey net. But he was like, the way that I look at Messi when he plays is how many points away is he from 100? Like I just expect 100 every time. And so it's like if he has a 90, then it's like 10 points away from 100 is not bad. So like 75, like 25 points away from 100 was actually bad for him. And I was like, man, this is cool having a card like this. So he was like fine. And then I had Osmar, who played for me very early Saturday morning. And the fun thing about Osmar, and I've completely changed my mind on the K-League stuff. So the cool thing about Osmar is I had no idea how many points he scored. He had like the 35 for starting. And then I was like, could be 45, could be 100. Who knows? I knew he didn't have a decisive. But there was like this little bit of anticipation that it was like, oh, this is actually kind of fun, having no idea how many points I had. And then Carlos Gil had a very disappointing 60.5. This is the lineup. I don't know why I didn't just show it earlier. So like it was fine, but like you need more than that in Rare Pro. And then River Plate ended up with a clean sheet, which is usually really good for me. But Paulo Diaz got injured very early on, 23 minutes in, and that ended the lineup. And then Osmar came in with a respectable 21 all-around average. But I don't even think that came in until Monday. But the first go around with Messi didn't work exactly like I hoped. Mike Basson is saying I should dump Carlos Gil for Marvin. It's not a terrible idea, although Marvin's season's about to end. So the reason why I was a little upset about this lineup even more is when I went against the Sorare data suggested lineup. And I learned my lesson that I shouldn't do that because instead of Osmar, it had Julian Quinones from Atlas. And he was away, but it was, and like Atlas had been actually terrible defensively, but like he's been really good. But I don't know what finally got me over that I should play Osmar. But, and I played Quinones in Champion America Rare Pro, which is another lineup I thought was going to be really good. So this was on Friday. He had 2 goals. And I was like, man, I could have that 83, which gets up to 108 because of the super rare, next to Messi. And I didn't. And so it was like, if Osmar had anything less than 83, which was the very reasonable output or very reasonable outcome because he didn't score, then obviously I'd made the mistake. Or not, I don't think it was a mistake, but it was there. I just chose wrong. And then Orlando absolutely, like definition, shit the bed and killed this lineup. I will say that I bought this Pereira super rare. I actually had a Janssen super rare as well. Still have one. And I kept switching this lineup around because I didn't have, if Quinones was going to go an all-star rare pro, then I could play Janssen here. And I forget, I think I had a Zelarayan or something rare to put in here. And I actually sent a message to my good friend Mike McGee, who was an Orlando City season ticket holder. And he was like, they should win, but they have struggled at home and they, for some reason, have like an issue with DC United. And I was like, DC United's terrible. Don't worry about it. And he was right. And so this lineup basically died. And it's just killer to see such a good card and such a good score with Quinones just end so poorly. And I missed the Cap 240 super rare threshold. I don't know why I played Kellen Acosta here. It was one of those that I was like, oh, he'll play, even though they were away after the USA-Mexico game midweek, excuse me. But even that, I was like, I can overcome that. But for some reason, Alessio Castro-Montes did not play or didn't start, excuse me. And that ended it. Like he starts and I'm good, pretty much. Yeah, it was disappointing. Not a great week. I won 2 tier 3s, both of which have already left my gallery. So I actually let me go into that. I made this lineup, Challenger Europe Rare Pro. I honestly don't think I have ever played a competitive lineup in this competition. And I do have Challenger super rares, like as you see here. So those listening, I have an Adon rare, Sebastian Coates super rare, Gabriel Florentine rare, Robert Lubicic super rare, and Dusan Tadic rare. So the Tadic is what I usually play in All-Star Rare Pro. And he was he was away to PSV this game week. And it was one of those that I thought he could do well, but he probably isn't going to smash. Turns out Ajax just got their face smashed in. But it was still enough to get this going. The All-Star Rare Pro lineup had Adon and Coates as well instead of Armani and Diaz. That would have gotten me there. A tad disappointing. Lubicic, I also thought about playing Lubicic instead of Osmar, and that didn't work out. And so it was just like a bunch of those types of situations where I was like close and then I wasn't. I thought I made like close to the right decisions, and yeah, I didn't. I did get my Cap 240 rare. No thanks to Luis Arruti here. Card's still for sale if anyone's looking. Just saying. Let's see. Let me get back in the chat here. Johanneton says that we should also have big chance saves. I agree with that. I'm actually not even sure that exists. Like theoretically it does because we have saves and we have big chances missed or big chances, but it's not there. A bunch of people, Scosmo saying I should dump Carlos Gil for Stindl. That is interesting. I probably won't do that though. So Mr. Meaty Chunk says, what's the rule on opening pro divisions? There are 4 midweek games, but no Prem Pro. Oh, is this a semi-pro, not rare pro? I have no idea. No idea when that is. Germ is looking for $75 for the rare Cap 240. I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest. I think there are just enough people playing, and I think it's okay. Yeah. Germ says, how does the U23 age expiry work for cards transferring to Russia or non-covered teams? Is it similar to the bonus percentage gets an extra year because new mints? No. Nope. If you're 24 by July 1st, you're out. Kevin Hurd is asking if we picked a winner for the Marvin comp yet. For those of you who don't know what that is, on yesterday's Sorare Andrews podcast, we opened a contest, and the winners are going to be determined during the next Sorare Andrews. Andy and I are going to go through all of them. He doesn't know that yet, which I think is going to be Tuesday of next week. And it's just the best lineup that you can make with everybody with the same first name. So it was a lineup of Marvins was the example yesterday. There have already been some fantastic submissions. There's a tweet about the show that you can reply to, or just reply in the comments of the video. And so, yeah, the winner will get a free Star membership for 1 month. Star to Sorare Data. Yeah, go nuts with those. So I wanted to talk about my limiteds thing because there was some feedback that I got on the video last week that I think deserves some discussion. So I had a lot of people reach out to me after I told that story about how I sold my limiteds, how I came to the decision to do it, how I literally did it with Fabian FVDV on Sorare. And so a lot of people came to me and were like, how did you do it? I'd like to do it too. And I feel like I needed to address it because not everybody who did this, but it did feel like there were people who heard the story and understood what I did and were like, oh, well, that means it's a good idea. And what is good for me is not necessarily good for everyone else. And that's kind of the fun and interesting and sometimes dangerous thing about Sorare, that we're all interested in our own stuff. And Johanneton saying how I sabotage the limited market. This is exactly what I mean. And so we all have our own situations. And even for people who have similar budgets, and I don't mean like gallery sizes, but let's say there are two people who have equal like disposable income that they can spend on something like JPEGs of soccer player heads, sorry, upper bodies, and can play those in a fantasy game. And one person may be more comfortable putting more money in than the other. And they're very different risk profiles. And Mr. Meaty Chunks, I apologize, who now says that his Trent Alexander-Arnold Limited is worth 0.00000001 ETH, thanks to me. I didn't even have a Trent, so you can't blame me for that. Nice try, though. There are plenty of other cards you can blame me for, though. So what's good for me? So because there are a lot of decisions that go into Sorare, and it's like, what cards do I buy? How much do I pay? Do I sell cards? Which contests do I enter? Which lineups, which cards should I use in those contests? What should I prioritize? And so because there's so many questions, it's understandable that you ask for other people's advice, or you seek it out, or people talk about it. And I talk about it a lot because it's literally my job. And so what I try to do on this channel is to give different perspectives of what different people are doing. And I will be completely honest that I don't feel like we do a good enough job when it comes to limiteds. And a big part of that is that the people on the channel have been here before limited started, and therefore never had the experience of entering the game, buying limiteds, and moving up from there. And so I appreciate that. And that is something that I'm trying to work on. I say that after selling all my limited cards, so I realize how stupid that sounds. But I think what's really important is that just because you see someone do something doesn't mean it's the right choice. Or maybe it's the right choice for them and it's not the right choice for you. And so when I try to explain why I do certain things, like selling all my limiteds, it's not because I think all of the limited cards are going to zero. It's because I think that what I could get out of my limited cards in terms of if I sold them and what I could do with the ETH is a bigger benefit to my gallery than keeping the limiteds. And I think that message got lost or misunderstood, or I just didn't explain it well. Johanneton says, limited is the new free to play thanks to what I did. I guess so. So anyway, so the feedback I got was basically everyone on this channel, meaning the Sorare data channel, just trashes limiteds, and we think they're all going to zero. And we explain the reasons why it's going to zero, not enough users, we're all selling, blah, blah, blah. But rares and super rares and uniques are fine. And if you look at the values of my rares and super rares, you will notice nothing is fine. But I guess I can see where that opinion comes from, and I appreciate it. And I think I'll try to do a better job trying to explain that what I'm doing is best for me and not necessarily best for everyone else. But I do appreciate that there are people who are in situations similar to mine and are curious what I think, right or wrong. And so it gives them something to think about. And so throughout my entire content career, I have really tried to make a point of not telling people what to do or telling them what I think they should do, and instead telling them what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And it's a very personal viewpoint, but I think understanding why someone thinks something is more important than just finding out what they think. And so if you watched the video last week and took from that I think limiteds are going to zero and that nobody should own limiteds and that we should all sell them out so that we can go buy rares and supers, I think that you misunderstood what I was saying. or I didn't do a good enough job explaining it. It's probably the latter, to be honest. So I'm trying to be much more conscious about the words that I use, not just fuck, but like the actual descriptive words that I use of what I'm doing with my own gallery on this, particularly this show, since we talk about anything, but a lot of it is about what I do. And so I'll try to be better at that. I will. And Germ said, I think this single Messi card will serve me better than the stash you traded. People just looking for something to be angry at. I don't think they were angry. I mean, maybe they were, but I didn't take it as anger. It was more just, I could understand why it looks like I am passing this message along with Sean and Andy and Maxime, that not that limiteds don't matter, but if it comes out that way, that's not the message. That's not the message we're trying to, and we're not even trying to, send a message about anything. Like, those guys still have limiteds and they're fine. Like, it works for them, but they just weren't working for me anymore. The enjoyment of Sorare was being lessened for me because of that. And now I'm like excited every week. I mean, it's been 2 weeks about what I did after getting rid of those limiteds and what I was able to do, which was get this Messi card. And so I just think it's important when you are watching content or listening or reading or whatever, that everyone's situation is different. And there's no way that somebody can produce Sorare content and not have their own experience affect what they say. It's impossible. And so we all need to understand that like while we're watching, and that doesn't mean that you can't get good advice. Like, if somebody is here and only plays uniques and they're like, I think this limited card, I think this player is good, that doesn't mean buying their limited card is bad just because this person is unique. So like, there are ways to get out good information out. And that's really what we try to do, is we explain our strategies or what we're expecting out of certain situations. And we hope that they're presented in a way that people can listen to that and say, okay, how does this affect my gallery? And go from there, instead of, they told me to buy this player, so I'm going to go buy him. And David Alva is right. Everyone's happier with a Messi. Mike Basson said, disclaimer, hosts' opinions are their own and not financial advice, which is true. It's certainly not financial advice. Maybe that's what it is. I think I think people take opinion, which so much Sorare content is opinion, and it's just not me. It's like Quinny and Stish on End Product, or John, or the plethora of like really good content creators out there. It's all opinion, and it's all like, I did this because this is what I think will happen, and all stuff like that. And I think I think the message just got confused. And so, so that's it. Jakun said, the truth can hurt. Limiteds will likely go to zero. No need to justify the reality. See, I don't think so. I really don't. Germ said, limiteds are not a priority for whales. I believe the quote Andy used was, they just feel like a chore. Excuse me, quote, they just feel like a chore, unquote. And when you look at his gallery, no one is disagreeing with him if in his shoes. I don't know what the shoes have to do with it. Raul said, limiteds are fine if they're going up in price. I mean, everything's good. It's just, Josh said, it's also difficult to find a presenter that cares enough about Sorare to do a podcast that isn't involved in rares and above. Finding that person is very tough. So I think the problem is, because progression is so important to the Sorare platform. Like, the entire game is built around progressing to the next scarcity, that if you're really successful at the limited level, at some point you should not be there anymore. Like Sorare want you to be really successful at limited and then move to rare, and then be really successful in rare that you go to super rare, and then really successful in super rare and go to unique. And this isn't a process that happens in 6 weeks. But that's literally the point. Like the entire game is built around that. There is a snake graph the chart that shows this whole thing of moving from amateur competitions, commons no less, and goes all the way to uniques. And I'm even going to pull it up just to prove a point. I don't know what point I'm trying to prove here, but I'm going to prove something. So does anyone remember when this thing was? It was like December, wasn't it? So that's the problem, I think, to have limited only content forever. And I'm not sure how it's really different. Like, I'm not sure at what point there is content that is only valuable for players who play limited. Like if we're talking about like cheaper players, like they're probably cheap in rare. I actually think you could make the argument that there is a unique division strategy that could be discussed, but nobody's going to start doing content for 12 people with a maximum of 17 or so, whatever it is. And so the issue is just that we do basically ignore it. Like, admittedly, we mostly ignore it. And that's not fair. But I also, like, I'm not sure how our content changes or isn't applicable, excuse me, to people who just play limited, except for the times when, like, obviously it's like, oh, how do you buy super rares? And it's like, well, buying super rares is different. Ooh, that reminds me. I was going to talk about super rare 240 also, just to get back to the whale conversations. Raul is saying you cannot be successful at limited when prices go down 90%. I disagree. I actually completely disagree, because everything's going down 90%. Man, where is this update? I really wanted this. What was this in here? Gameplay something or other. So, like, if limiteds are going down, rares and super rares are going down. Like, oh yeah, here we go. All right, now we're cooking with gas. Here you go. From cap 220 all the way to all-star unique. And so that's where, yeah, Jakun, Sorare, yeah, they do. They want you to go all the way to unique. And, like, come off to all-star rare pro every so often. Mr. Meaty Chunks, man, I love that name, not going to lie. Says limiteds just vary a lot more based on current form. As soon as a guy has a couple bad games, his price tanks because people try and jump out. So then it looks like all prices are tanking, but some do go up. So this totally applies to rares also. But it's actually, I don't want to say it's worse, but it might actually be worse in rares when a guy has a form like this, because instead of the limited prices all dropping, rares don't drop because nobody's buying, because nobody is willing to actually take the loss. Whereas in limiteds, you're willing to take a smaller loss to, like, get back into something else. But in rares, nobody wants to buy it. So, like, what does that tell us? That prices of limiteds go down, but the reason why rares don't crash as much is because the player is actually closer to being worthless than just worth less. And so that's the problem. Jumpshoot said, what percentage of Sorare users are going to make that progression? 0. Like, I actually think there are 0. I think there is 0. And the only reason I hesitated with that is because Luca Magic popped into my head. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, Luca Magic, as legend tells us, started on Sorare back in July of 2020 with 25 euros and now has 104 ETH gallery, $168,000. And so that's cool. And so Jumpshoot said under 2% make it to unique. It's less than that. If you're actually thinking of people who progress like from cap 220 to unique, like it's never happened. And I don't think it has to happen. Like I have no expectation that I will progress to play the unique division in full. And so I don't have any uniques right now. I had one because way back when you got one for referring 30 people to Sorare. And I sold it, and I've gotten close to buying one recently, but now I have no money. Morello said Sorare wants you to spend more money. That's the point. Yeah, that's why Sean's on the show. They pay him to say that over and over again. I'm just kidding. Please, like, that's not actually true. I mean, Sean does say that all the time, but Sorare's not telling him to. Morello said the only limited card that could go up at the moment is Trent. I was just told Trent was 0 now. I was just blamed for that. Ricky said we need limited pro to help progress from limited to rare. There was a small part of me that aggressively bought into limiteds way back when I did and kept my limiteds for so long was because of the possibility of limited pro, because it just made way too much sense that would exist. And this graph on the screen here, which is the progression graph with all-star rare pro, like just like off on the side somewhere, like right here, with no progression from here, which is funny because it's the literal progression into super rare. And my boss's expectation that they will get rid of rare pro at some point, he doesn't know that they will, but he's expecting it. Then there's no reason to start a limited pro if you're eventually getting rid of rare pro. But I agree that limited pro made sense and should happen. And so with like no expectation that it was coming, that's what made me more comfortable with getting out. And so Jock Kuhn said the whales don't want others to go to super rare, let alone unique. I'm not talking about threshold, but really competing in the super rare new division. That's wrong also. Or let me rephrase. My opinion is that you are incorrect. And I think that because if more people wanted to compete in super rare and unique, the values of the existing super rares and uniques go up because people want them and they're willing to pay for them. And we have seen an increase in super rare values, or at least the multiple of super rares to rares. It is getting much bigger. And I think part of it is because of cap 240. This would be a perfect time to segue to that. But it's also because of the others. Like at some point, people are going to want to compete more. And so that's why I think it's there. I lost my spot on the chat, so I apologize. I'm trying to make sure I hit everybody who was here. Raul said the price of rares and super rares don't go down that much because the supply is very low. So that is definitely part of it, but it's also because nobody wants to buy. Like, I will show you the card that I keep trying to get rid of. Luis Urruti, I have this card. I won it. He's currently hurt. And like nobody wants one. Like this is less than 20 transactions in a year for his rare card, and nothing in the last month, and a handful in the last 3 months when he came back. Like this is a card that should be tanking, which if you go to the limited, that's just kind of all over the place. But yeah, so that was that. Raul said, I don't mind playing limiteds, but I don't want to see my investment dropping 90%. Nobody does. I also wouldn't look at it as an investment. Connor said, I think it makes sense if you have the budget to regress down that path from unique to win supers. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I'm so far from like reasonably buying uniques that I'm way out of my element when it comes to those. Like I can't speak intelligently on it, as if like everything I speak on is spoken of intelligently, but I don't feel comfortable talking about uniques because I'm just not, I just don't know anything about them. Josh XL said, I'd love to see how long it would take somebody with a $25 budget to just a rare cap 240 lineup. The people are trying it. I know Stish is trying it right now. I think he's doing a $50 Road to Glory. I mean, that's basically what it's called. Quinny does one, Nellis does one. Nep does one. I don't know if they started at 0. I think they initially thought they would start at 0, and it turns out it's a lot harder to win. But I do think, so that is one thing I considered after selling all my limiteds. And I didn't sell all of them. Like I do have a couple left. In fact, I have enough thanks to Tuggy now that I can't even enter semi-pro. But I did consider like how cheap can I get a limited 240 side payoff, and I haven't ruled that out. So I don't know. We'll see. Mr. Meaty Chunks back again. I'm a full limited gallery at the moment. I could sell them all and build a 240 rare team, but I have more fun using better players at limited, which is exactly how I felt, to butt in there, and can't afford both right now. People need to pick how they play and enjoy the game. I think that's perfectly said. Mr. Meaty Chunks nailed it. That's speaking intelligently on something. He said, I do think limited pro would help more people, but not 100% needed for progression. That's fine. That's fine. Risu says progressing does not mean sell all of the lower scarcity. That's true. But I didn't again, what I did was I wasn't progressing from rare to limited. Or from limited to rare. I was already there. But maybe it does. Like, why doesn't it mean that? I don't see any reason why selling limited to get into rares is not progression. Juan said, what to play if I have $100 to invest, trade, and play? All right, so this is exactly the kind of question that I was referring to earlier in terms of people like wanting help. And the $100, you could ask this question to 10 different people, and you'll get 10 different answers. And there's no right answer. Like some will say go to cap 240 limited. Some will say go to All-Star. Some will say Challenger. Some will say which team do you know best? Stack them and play them in whatever regional. Like there's no right way to play. Or what's your time frame? If you're like I want to put $100 in and have it be worth $300 in a year, the best thing could be buy a single player, like buy a single card and just wait. And if you think that card, like, it's a U23 kid who's like just starting to play, and if he does get in the first team and he starts playing regularly, like his price will go up. Go buy a bunch of current backup U23 goalies, and if they become starters, like their prices skyrocket. Like there are plenty of ways to turn $100 into more. You could also turn it into 0. But just like that, invest, trade, play. Like we don't know where prices are going. We don't know which young players are playing really well for the U14 sides that may play in the U16s that in 2 years. And then like, it all depends. Like there's no single answer for any question on Sorare. There's no specific answer. Even list or play. 2 options, but they're very different. Shout out Trip and B. Off Night said Rudy's hard to sell because he hasn't played and there was a problem with approving. You don't have to tell me. Yeah. Jock Kuhn said the whales want us to play threshold. So the whales don't care what everybody else plays. Like first off, they really don't. So the whales want us to play threshold, super rare, and unique so they can sell their rewards, which is fine. Like we all want to win rewards to sell. I mean, obviously we would love rewards that we can play, but like that's the point of rewards. I'm talking premium cards here. I can't compete with 150 ETH gallery. See, I disagree. I think 150 ETH should be enough. I mean, yes, you don't have to. compete in every single unique competition, but I think you can do it. There are people who do it. Clement, hello. Vita. Mike Basson said the days have it being an investment are long gone for the masses. And Juan says he has a $0 road to glory and have 80 now right now. That's wild. Scosmo is more of a glory to road guy, though. And with all due respect, I would love to watch Scosmo on a glory to road. Rel said, I do think limited cards will go up in price in this cycle, but I have no idea what cycle we're in. Jao says, why don't they create a division where people with only limited cards can play? Because most whales play limited too, and of course they have the best cards in limited. Like, I fundamentally disagree with having competitions of an entire scarcity just for people with that scarcity. They do it obviously now. Like, they have the semi-pro competitions. Like, I can't play those because I have more than 10 limited cards. Like, I think it's more of a beginner thing. And I understand what you're saying, Zhao. I don't think it's necessary. But it could be just because because I'm on the side where I could compete. Yeah. Well, Charlie said there's no right answer. Do what appeals to you the most. Right. Like, I think Clement says there are plenty of ways to transform $100 into 20. Totally. Like, if you got into this game with the idea that everything you bought was going to be worth more because you bought it, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you saw or read or heard in your time before you joined Sorare, where somebody was like, everything you buy will go up and you will win every time. If that's out there, then I would advise, and again, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I would advise you stop listening to that. Scosmo says you can compete in any division. You just have to set your expectations appropriately. Yeah, I think that's right. My man Harry, what's up? Mike Basson said, isn't Tuggy the king of glory to road? He's not. You will ask PSU fans to that. I think he gives Tuggy way too hard of a time, because I do think that they both look at Sorare differently. And I think Tuggy, and I've talked to him, Tuggy actually wanted my Luis Urruti way back in the day. Obviously should have sold it to him. But I think Tuggy gets something different out of Sorare than Sean does. Just the way that, like, I get different things out of Sorare than the two of them, and Maxime and Andy and everyone. Like, we all get different things out of Sorare. And one of the things that Tuggy does that I really like is trying to trade and getting cards that we want and, like, trading to get there. And sometimes you get to take a loss on it so that you can get what you want. And there are other people who would, like, never do that. And when they see that, like Sean, the response is like, you're doing it wrong. And Sean's response would be like, well, if I had $100 and then I have $50, then obviously I'm doing something wrong. And I would argue that, like, if you ended up with what you wanted and you paid $50 to get it, I'm not sure that's wrong. Yeah. Juan saying, is this the best time to buy European players or wait until the last game weeks? So Juan, we're going to talk about that literally on the next strategy show next week. So stay tuned for that. Mr. Meaty Chunk says, everyone wants to win, surely. What's the point to playing a competitive game? I think there was a comment earlier that whales don't actually want to win. They just want to win money or get money. I don't know. The Good Place said, who I think might be Trippin' B's burner account, because he said, I'm more interested in the road to Perth glory when A-League. I agree. A-League would be fun. Sir Rob said, we recently put a decent amount into 10 rares, including 2 goalkeepers, to move further up into rare. I really enjoyed limiteds because, as you and many others have said, you can use some insane players. That was the reason I got into limiteds, because I could get those guys that I couldn't get in rare and super rare. And those limiteds eventually helped me get one of those guys that I wanted in rares, which was Lionel Messi. Vita says, Sorare is playing Football Manager, but turning the settings to super hard, and everyone is trying to bully you. Seems right. Seems right. So yeah. I've actually never played Football Manager in my entire life. So there's that. But I heard it's fun for some people. Josh said, I bought Eloy Room as my summer rare keeper because everyone assured me he was one of the safest MLS keepers. So I have him too. He's right here. In fairness, he was safe and he got hurt. Injuries happen. This is football. People get hurt. Thank you, Mike. I was just about to bring up Cap 240. So I was having a discussion with my good friend, Harry Trades, who was here, and Sam Tai. It was before or after the latest Looking Up with Laird, which is, I actually have no idea if it's currently available on Sorare TV, but go over to Sorare TV, search it on YouTube, and we have another episode out today or out soon. So, Josh says there are rumors that Room is not hurt and that he's being sold to Vitesse, which actually for me would be amazing because I also have Melly Muhlenstein. I mean, obviously it doesn't help for the summer, but Charlie said, or the episode 22 of Looking Up with Laird is out now. So go check, not yet, stay here, but go check that out. So, Josh, rumors, ROOMOURS. That's a good one. Yeah, we all missed that one. So, Mr. Meaty Chunk, sorry, I promise I will get to Cap 240 in a second. I have 14 playable limited cards in my gallery. If I put them in the right combinations, I would have had 3 top 10s recently. Not progressing is on my picks, not my player prices. Maybe. We've all done that before. Olympic Manager says, I bought Eloy Room Limited 221 of 1,000 because his picture was on the wonk. Well, let's see what we got. 221. For those listening, I'm literally just clicking onto my computer on Sorare data to see what this 221, is it this year? So it is not this year. I don't know. It looks fine to me. I don't know. Olympic Manager, what do you got? I don't know. They look regular to me. Anyway, sorry. So 240, Cap 240. I'm going to talk about super rare because I'm a whale. I'm just kidding about both of those things. But I actually am going to talk about super rare because that's where, Olympic Manager said 211. So I have noticed there were a few tweets, one of which Harry sent me from, who was it? Joe Bateman? One of the members of the French community. 211. Oh yeah, that is a little off. Love those. Congrats on your purchase. I would buy that too. Back, when I own limited. So Joe is doing this whole thing of like how cheaply he can play super rare 240. And it came about because there was a tweet that trying to play all-star super rare and what you can win in all-star super rare. And the best thing you can win in the super rare division are tier 1 super rares. You cannot win stars. Those are in the unique division. And so it was essentially that the ROI on a super rare threshold team is so much higher than even the best case outcome for All-Star. And Ugo saying, what's up from Milan? Ciao, Ugo. So, and it went through this whole thing of like what super rares you need, or like the best super rares in order to reasonably compete at All-Star Super Rare, or just the Super Rare division. I keep saying All-Star, and I'm going to keep saying it, but just like know that it means anywhere in the Super Rare division. And I'm not going to dispute it because it's very hard to get a competitive Super Rare division lineup. But what I will say is that I think there's a misunderstanding in terms of the viability of lineups in that division. And so people look at it as like, you could never win with that lineup. And the reality is that you can, in that there are non-elite lineups that win cards in the Super Rare division and win first place in the Super Rare division, because a lot of the best Super Rares are still played in the unique division, or they're played in Rare Pro. And even though they made the prizes in the Super Rare division better, they're still not the best. Like, you cannot win the best cards in that division. The only division you cannot win a star. You can win star limiteds in all the limited competitions, meaning All-Star and all those. In All-Star Rare, you can win stars. Or excuse me, in the Rare division, you can win stars. In Rare Pro, you can win stars. In the unique division, you can win stars. And in the Super Rare division, you cannot. Surface is saying, I really like having a unique goalkeeper for Super Rare division when possible, since the goalkeepers are such a crapshoot anyway. Mid-level unique goalkeepers are not that much more than Super Rares, and it's a good value power upgrade. Sure, it makes sense. You whale. I say that lovingly. Thank you, Sam. So Dennis Meyer says, people lose sight of the fact that contests are free to enter. You're not losing anything if you're not playing Kimmich or Carlos Heel every week. I mean, if you're not playing them, you should list them for a lot, because you'll be the only one there. But anyway, so the conversation was about Super Rare. And I think it fully applies to those who are trying to do limited and rare thresholds as well. Like, I'm only going to buy cards for that. And we have mentioned on this channel, there was a strategy show we did about that you need more than 5 cards. Like, first off, like, you need 5 cards for the lineup, but you will need more than 5 cards as you're trying to like budget out what you need for Super Rare. Excuse me, for Cap 240. So realistically, let's call it 8 cards, 10 cards. You're going to need more. And the goalkeeper is the most important, because usually those are the most expensive. It's really tough to find a very cheap goalkeeper that doesn't score like 8 points a game. But the problem is also, like, if something happens to them, now you're out that goal. Now you can't enter, or you're entering effectively with like 0 points, and you have to get 250 points from 4 players. It's not impossible, but it's also not reasonable every week. And so I'm not saying you have to go out and buy 2 goalies, but you need more than 5 players. And the other kicker is, if you only have 1 goalie and they're playing really well, now it's harder to fit in other good players. Because if your goalkeeper has like an L15 of 60, that's really prohibitive for the rest of your lineup. And so if you bought players that fit in at 240 when your goalkeeper was a 52 and now there's a 60, you have to buy someone else now. And so this is why you need more than 5. And so it's easy to do this, meaning to like buy another card in limited and rare. I don't mean it's cheap, but it's easy to get those cards. And it's just not as easy to do it on the super rare level. And that's why I think super rare 240 is much harder than people think. Because you can use the concept tool all the time. Oh, this team would have scored 240 and blah, 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 8 times, and that pays it off. But the problem is that that already happened. So if you buy those cards, it's not like you're winning the thresholds from 6, 8, 12, 14 weeks ago. The other kicker is if something happens with either somebody gets hurt or it doesn't fit in 240, you now have to find another super rare. And obviously the budget, super rares cost more than rares and limiteds. But you also have to find one that fits in your L15 cap for that week. You have to hope that they don't get out of it the next week or whenever you're going to play it. And getting super rares is just not that easy. There's just not that many on the market, particularly now with lister play. And so people can talk about this is what I'm spending, and these are the cards. Not to mention the fact that if you only have one goalkeeper, if it's a European, you got 6 weeks left at best. Then you have a summer off. And so I know that there are people who try the 0 cap super rare goalies, which I think if you can avoid that, you should avoid it. But if not, go for it. Like we said, free entry, so just go nuts. This is what Josh says, you're better off that way. I actually don't think you're better off that way. And 4 really good outfield players, I'm not sure you're playing them right there anyway. Vita says, if you cannot play super rare because I love way too much to play with undervalued U23s, and undervalued in super rare still means 7x the rare price. Well, yeah. Just don't buy those cards. Buy some old guys. Stop being ageist. Buy some 34-year-olds who still bang on the SO5 scoreboards. So it's just, when it comes to those who are looking into the super rare situation, you think you get somewhere and you're like, all right, I have my guys. And something's going to happen that you're going to need another one. And you really, it's just such a tough spot to be in when you sit down and you're like, all right, I now need a new super rare defender with an L15 under 41. And finding someone you actually want to buy, and then realize you have to spend hundreds of dollars for this card. And so the good place is saying, if you can afford 4 super rares at average 60, you can afford a super rare goalkeeper. So I really hate that, because it's true. That if you can find an average 60 super rare, and 60 is actually really high, but you probably should have just bought a goalie. Sarab, old people that bang on the SO5 scores equal Michael Bradley when he's not injured. Absolutely. Shout out old guys. Shout out Michael Bradley. So it's just something that I think everybody needs to consider. For those who are looking at the super rare threshold, since they increased the amount of the threshold and it became really popular, the rare super rare prices are up. And they're up in turn, compared to rares, which are not going up as fast. But the multiple is much higher now, and it's probably where it should have always been. It wasn't because the utility wasn't there. But it's not that easy. Not to bring this back to me, even though this is my show and I'm the only one talking. I have 53. Yeah, I have 53 super rares. And the last 3 weeks, I have not hit the threshold. Now, that's partially on me, of course. And I have 2 currently active super rare goalies, which turns into 1 very soon, because I have one from the Turkish Super League, and that's ending soon. And Brad Guzan is out. And I spend a lot of time trying to find super rare goalkeepers. and it sucks. It absolutely. That's where I got tossed off for some reason. But understandably, nobody wants to trade away a super rare goalkeeper for like a bunch of pieces. Like Pavel will do it, but you're really paying up at that point. And so, yeah, they're just hard to get. So Roland brings this up, and I actually think our super rare price is really up. Isn't it that rares are so cheap now that we're considering current super rare prices too much, or the multiplier too high? I don't think the multiplier is too high. And I do think prices are up. It's not so much that like everyone's price is up, but it's like players that normally were not getting much consideration, super rare versions of them, are now getting, like, this card, used to be like probably like 0.05. And now it's like 0.1 ETH. And it's like, that's a very big difference. And cards like that are, because of threshold, cards like that are becoming valuable, I guess. It really is. It's valuable. And so, yeah, I think super rare prices are going up. And obviously the multiple is going up because rare prices they're not all going down, but some are going down. Anyway, I've gone over for over an hour here. So I'm going to stop. I don't know if there's going to be an off topic next week. I'm going to be traveling a little bit. Monday is going to be office hours. Tuesday, Sorare Andrews, and then Wednesday or Thursday is the strategy show. I don't know if I'll fit in off topic or not. And then the following week, no shows. So before I do that, Levi said, with each conversation and show with Maxime, I have a feeling that this system is going into a wrong direction and it's going to collapse. And I don't know if this is an opportunity or the opposite. So for my own well-being and Maxime's, let's hope it doesn't collapse. Or else I'd be having a lot of extra time to be streaming to you guys about God knows what. Anyway, so yeah, thank you to everybody for joining. If you guys could please hit the like button on the video, always really appreciate it. Thank you everyone who joined in the chat. For those of you who are unable to be here live but have watched or listened, thank you for doing so. If you could please rate and review if you listen to the podcast, wherever you listen. It's been a while since we've had like a rating jump. And frankly, everybody who's here, I'm sure you all have podcasts that you listen to. Even if you don't listen to the Sorare data ones, if you could just go on and rate and review them, it's really helpful just to get those in front of more people's eyes and ears. And same thing with these videos. If you like them, just hit the like button. Really, on like everything that you watch, the likes mean a lot. And I don't mean a lot to like the people who are producing the stuff, although it does. But it just gets more people, gets more, busier in the algorithm and allows more people to see it. And it's just helpful. So take the 1 second to like the videos, not just these, but any videos that you watch. Just go in, rate and review, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny. Yeah, thank you to everyone for joining, and good luck this weekend.